Let's hope I don't mess any names up in this one, because I don't think I could take any more ridicule. What is up, Finn fans? Yeah, man. Running backs were important to me. Wide receivers are very important. Tight end, not as important. I wouldn't say there's much controversy with the tight ends. It's like Kyle Pitts, everyone else. Offensive line is very important. Defensive line is very important. Everything else is meh. So, like you tell by the title, today's video, we're doing the top 5 wide receiver prospects. Now, I think this is very important because it is a very big possibility that the Miami Dolphins take a wide receiver at number 6. And if not at number 6, maybe 18, maybe 36, maybe 50. I wrote down how many draft picks we have right there on my dry erase board so I could give exact numbers. But I do think the Dolphins will take a wide receiver this year. I think, we have 12 wide receivers. Not a lot of them are going to make it to the season. It's a lot of camp bodies. But like I said, this video is very important. I think offensive line video, defensive line, linebacker. Corners and safeties, but there's needs, and I already told you guys what my list of needs are from most important to least important. Little side note, little tidbit. Offensive line, when I talk about the interior guys, I'm going to have Reason on as a guest because he had one of the top offensive linemen on his channel, so he has a little bit more in-depth thought process and knowledge of the interior offensive lines. And when I get to safeties, I'm bringing in Jason Sarney from Finn's Maniac to help me with the safety. So I'm going to bring in some guys to help me. I might bring in more. I might bring in some more Dolphin guys to help me with different positions because I just started. We did quarterbacks, running backs, we're at wide receivers. I got a lot more to do. Before we jump into any of that cool, sexy stuff, patchvibes.com. Patchvibes.com. Be sure to check them out. Use the promo code DDW. Get yourself 20% off on patches. T-shirts. I love this T-shirt. I'm actually getting the Joe Robbie Stadium shirts. When I get it, I'll wear it. Shout it out. They have pins, all that great stuff. Use the promo code. You get yourself 20% off. And you guys might notice something. Before we jump to this video, you guys might notice something. You might notice, hey, there's some comments and views as soon as this video goes up. What the flip, Doug? That's the Patreons and the members. They get early access to the videos, the Patreons and the members. So I'm recording this tonight being Thursday night. You guys are seeing it Friday, but the Patreons and the members see it as soon as I'm done tonight, probably around 9, 10 o'clock. So if you want to join, it's all linked below. Join, or the Patreon's link below. So let's jump into this. Let's talk about the top 5 prospects at wide receiver. And again, let's take a deep breath, everybody. It's my opinion. You may think, hey, I think this wide receiver is better than this one you have listed. Or I can't believe you have this one at 1 and this one at 2. Yeah, it's my opinion. I did some research, looked at the film. There's little things here and there about these players. There's a little knock on this person, a little knock on this person. I weigh. Is it that big of a deal versus this? And I talk about it. And I expect you guys to have a difference of opinion. And I hope you do. And I hope you comment it below. So let's jump into this. My number 5 wide receiver in this draft is Kadarius Toney. And I did say his name right. I made a point because I saw his first name and I was like, let me make sure I say his name right. Kadarius Toney, wide receiver from Florida. He's 6 foot tall, 193. Didn't really find any of his 40 times or anything, but he's a fast little guy. And this is something different that I'm going to do for the wide receivers. I'm going to tell you where they took most of their snaps, whether it's slot or whether it's out wide. And with Kadarius Toney, he took most of his snaps in the slot position, 456 snaps at the slot position, 113 snaps wide. So he is a slot wide receiver. He's a little guy, like I said, 6 foot, 193, great yards after catch ability. He is that type of guy. You watch his film, you watch him playing at Florida, he will catch it and he will make, especially on screenplays and stuff like that, will break off some big runs, has great cuts, great elusiveness with this one. His acceleration, he'll catch it, he takes off and uses it very well, especially on long routes. Like I said, he's got that quick cut, and that's what you want with these receivers, right? Especially these smaller guys, these speedy guys. You want them to plant their foot and get out there. And he's good, and he knows how to use his acceleration. If he's doing like an in route, He will turn the jets once he gets on that inside and have that corner chasing him down. He's only had 3 drops out of 123 catchable passes. 3 drops. Kid is good, fast, small guy. I like him. That's why he's my number 5. Here's his cons, right? As much as I was talking about, he likes to turn the jets on. He's got quick cuts and all that stuff. He is a little unpolished when it comes to his route running. Yes, he's fast. Yes, he has quick cuts, but he's a little sloppy. He's a little unpolished. So needs to work on that. Unknown how he'll do in traffic when it comes to catching the football. He's had 10 contested catches his college career, so we don't know how he'll do if he's got a corner of his face, if he's got a linebacker in his face, if he's got a safety in his face, and he has to do contested catches. And his injuries did limit to 510 snaps over his 3 years. So he does get banged up. And again, he's a smaller guy, so he does tend to get a little, think of Jakeem Grant, right? In 2018, his PFF grade was 83.5, 260 yards, 1 touchdown. 2019, 80 PFF grade, 194, 1 touchdown. And last year, he had an 84 PFF grade with 970 yards and 10 touchdowns. He is my number 5. Now, again, I told you in Twitter, if you haven't yet, go follow me on Twitter. My 2 and my 1 were very hard. Very hard. And I will get into more detail on why they were so hard for me to pick and give you a little behind the scenes on how I came about my decision. But let's get to number 4. My number 4 is Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He had a 4.39 40, a 10-foot 3-inch broad jump, and a 36-inch vertical jump. Most of his snaps came out of the wide position, but in 2020 he took more snaps in the slot position to get him the ball more, to get the ball more in his hand. It was more of a scheme shift. You'll see if you go on PFF, you'll see he had a huge jump in his slot position snaps last year. Tried to get the ball in his hands, but overall he had 204 snaps in the slot position, and he had 673 snaps in the wide position. So he is more an outside receiver. Great ball skills. He played basketball. It does translate over to the NFL. Not the NFL, but just football in general. Be able to box you out, get up, get the ball. Great. Another guy who has really good yards after catch. It's going to break tackles, 36 broken tackles on 147 catches. He will be able to break tackles. Again, he's got that versatility in his position. Like I said, he had 240 snaps in the slot, 674 out wide. If you look at him in 2020, he had a lot more snaps in the slot position, again, to get that ball in his hand, and he attacks the ball well, does very well with the contested catches, which shows his basketball skills translating to the football. You got to box your guy out, get the rebounds, all that great stuff. So he is a big-bodied wide receiver. Again, 6'2", 210 pounds. Will be able to box you out, get that ball. Now here's his cons. He's good. He's not great when it comes to his athleticism. He did run a 4.39 40. He does have a nice vert and a nice broad jump. But when it comes to his athleticism, it's good. It's not great. You know, it's not like a DK Metcalf type receiver. It's not, a Julio Jones in his prime type receiver. But it's good. He does have some drop issues. 19 drops on 166 catchable balls. He needs to work on his hands a little bit more. But overall, I really like this guy at 4. If the Dolphins could get him at 36 or 50 and say they went with Kyle Pitts at 6, and then say they did go offensive line at 18, or maybe they took Phillips, the defensive end from Miami, at 18, 6 Pitts, I'd be happy with, 36 Javonte Williams. And if Rashad Bateman's there at 50, taking him, that really could solidify this wide receiver core. I think that'd be a fantastic first 4 picks. His PFF grade in 2018, 69.5, 704 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2019, 87.1, 1,219 yards, 11 touchdowns. And this past year, 81.1, 472 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You see the huge drop in production from 2019 to 2020. That's why they started putting him in the slot to try to get the ball to him. Now my top three. And again, my top three were hard. You're probably going to be surprised who my number three is. And then you probably are going to try to predict who my 2 and 1 is. And it might be, it's a little shocking to you. But my number three may be a little, what? My number three is Jalen Waddle. And yes, I hope I said his name right. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama. He's 5'10", 182 pounds. Him and Smith didn't run their 40s, didn't do their broad jumps, didn't do their verts, didn't do any of that stuff. They just helped out Mac Jones, and then they called it a day. So I don't have many stats on them, but most of his snaps were in the slot, which makes sense. He's a shorter wide receiver, 5'10", 182 pounds. 454 snaps in the slot position, 127 snaps out wide. He's a small guy. He's got that fast off the line acceleration. He's going to pop. If you don't jam him at the line of scrimmage, or you don't get in his face, he's going to get off, especially if you're looking at doing slant plays and stuff. You better have him jammed at the line of scrimmage or he's going to get open. Explosive all around. All around, very fast guy who's going to really get, especially you get him in the open field, extremely dangerous. Strong catch point. You're going to hear that a lot, especially during draft time, catch point or a point of attack. You go up and get the ball. You don't wait for the ball to come to you. You want to get up and get the ball at the point of attack. Also, always hands. Don't catch with. There's some wide receivers that catch with their body, and I prefer hand catchers where they catch with their hand, not with their body, because a lot of times that ball bounces right off. Great hips. Absolute great hips with this one. A nightmare against press. So if he's explosive off the snap, and he's a nightmare when you try to press him, it's a very good wide receiver. Well, Doug, why do you have him at number 3? Well, my 2 and my 1, I think, are a little bit better. And again, this was I just want to reiterate this. I don't know if you got to this point or you clicked the video off. 3, 2, and 1 were very hard for me to choose. If the Dolphins at 6 take either of these guys or Pitts, I'm ecstatic. I will talk about that when I get to the mock draft and when I talk about more about the draft stuff. But it's very hard for my 3, 2, and 1. He's on the smaller side. It's one of his cons. Again, he's 5'10", 182 pounds. He's only had 971 career snaps, so he hasn't had many snaps. He broke his ankle in the Georgia game, and he was still a little hobbled in the national championship game. But again, I think the biggest knock on Jalen Waddle is his size. He's a smaller guy. He's going to be your slot receiver. He's going to be that guy who's going to, get in the open space and get him the ball, and he's going to make things crazy and dynamic. You look at his PFF grade in 2018, 89.7, 848 yards, 7 touchdowns. In 2019, 83.7 PFF, 560 yards, 6 touchdowns. And in 2020, 82.6 with 591 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now my 2 and my 1. This was hard. This was very hard.
That's what she said. No time. But she did. No time.
It was very hard. I've reached out to a few people that I trust when it comes to prospects, when it comes to film breakdown, when it comes to tape. I reached out to Reason being one, and I was like, give me, what do you think? This is what I think. What do you think? And that's what I do a lot with you guys, especially below. You guys might say, hey, I disagree. This is what I think. And I go, And I go back. I look at them like, you're right. And it helps me learn. So like I said, I reached out to Reason. I reached out to a bunch of other guys. And I was like, I'm stuck at 1 and 2. This is what I think. What do you think? And I got some advice. And this is what I got. My number 2 wide receiver in this draft is... I can feel it. I could just feel the heat coming from the comment section. My number 2 wide receiver in the draft is Ja'Marr Chase. I understand. Everyone and their mother has Ja'Marr Chase as the number 1 wide receiver in the draft. And again, it was extremely hard. I'm not saying I would have them both at 1, but Ja'Marr Chase is my number 2. LSU wide receiver, 6'1", 200 pounds. He mostly was mostly out wide, which you can expect when I talk about his play and stuff. 80 snaps in slot, 588 snaps out wide, 4.38 40, fast guy, 41-inch vert. And like I said, most snaps he was out wide, which you expect from a 6'1" wide receiver. Not much in the slot. He's got great yards after catch, 22 broken tackles. A lot of these wide receivers, and you'll start noticing that with a lot of these top guys, they will break tackles left and right. It's kind of the new thing. You see the evolution of football, faster, all of this great stuff. He gets off physical. He's physical against the jam. You're going to try to jam him. He's going to break out of it. He's going to get around you. And then you let him get around you. And I've seen a lot of it in film. He's very good at stop and go. And if you let him get around you, he's going to go up the field and have great production. Tracks the ball really well. Gets the ball at the highest point, which is what you want, especially if you got a corner in front of you, behind you. You want to get up, get at the ball, and attack the ball. Don't wait for the ball to come to you. You want to go to the ball. Very good. And like I said, great speed. Ran a 4.38. Great speed. Here's his cons, right? The catch point that I was talking about, it doesn't really transfer much into the NFL, right? He's 6 foot. You're going to have a lot of these corners in the NFL. You don't face the best of the best in college. Sometimes you'll face teams that are like AA, not even like, big college teams. Whereas in the NFL, you're facing the best of the best. So his catch point might not, I'm saying might not, transfer to the NFL. You're going to have some guys that might be able to jump higher than you, get in front of you, be more physical with you. So it might not transfer there. This is the story that has been talked about with quarterbacks and wide receivers forever, and it kind of was brought up with him. Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. Who was it? Who was the production? Was Jerry Rice good because of Joe Montana? Was Joe Montana good because of Jerry Rice? That's kind of where they're going with this, right? Jamar Chase. Was he good because of Joe Burrow? Or was Joe Burrow good because he had Jamar Chase there? You know what I'm saying? 1 year of production. He opted out in 2020, so we don't know if it was Burrow. See what I'm saying? We don't know, was it Burrow or was it Jamar Chase? You know what I'm saying? Chicken and the egg situation. But he opted out in 2020, so we don't know. He had a fantastic 2019, then he opted out. Stiff. He's stiff. He's not very shifty. He's not going to, break your ankles. He's stiff. Especially when it comes to running routes, you want that fluidity. You want the quick hips, like I was talking about with the other receivers, Tony. You want the quick hips. You want the quick cuts. He's stiff. He's got those stiff hips, and he's not going to be, breaking your ankles and stuff like that. That is kind of my big reason why he went to. The stiffness and the production of 2019, not being able to see him in 2020 is why I went with him at 2. And again, it was so close with him in number 1. You probably already know who number 1 is. And that was the one thing that put him to 2. It was so close. I don't know his production into 2020. I don't know how he did with a different quarterback. He might go to the Cincinnati at picks 5, and then all of a sudden we don't got to worry about those questions. But that's why he went number 2, and that's why my number 1 wide receiver in the NFL draft is Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama. 6'1", 175. That is his biggest knock on him, and we'll talk about that in a second. Again, I don't have a 40. I don't have vert. I don't have broad. I don't have any of that stuff. He didn't do any of it. A lot of people think, when they think Devontae Smith, and I'm surprised I didn't say Devontae Davis. It's just, I don't know why that's just drilled in my head. A lot of people see him and they think slot receiver. 261 snaps in slot, 892 snaps out wide. Now, can he play the slot? Of course. He took 261 snaps in the slot. He took more snaps out wide, though. Think about that. Elite. He's Devontae Smith. You watched the national championship game. You watched him throughout the college playoffs. He's just elite. Elite ball player skill. Tough catches make easy. He's got that crazy wingspan. Very fluid when it comes to running his routes, when it comes to getting off the ball. Uncoachable. He has uncoachable movements. And you have the physicality, it translates. I'd prefer the guy to have the physicality and just need to work on the fundamentals versus have the fundamentals but doesn't have the physicality. Devontae Smith has the physicality. He's loose at the line of scrimmage. You can expect him to run these slants. You can expect to throw a screen to him. He's going to make it into something. Plays heavy and fights for the ball. Again, he's 175, but he plays heavy and he will fight for that ball. His pros, for me, outweigh his cons. His pros are the reason he's my number one. Yes, he has the cons, which number one is his weight. He's 175. But even Chad Johnson came out and said, I was about 170, 175 coming into the pros. And Chad Johnson should be a Hall of Famer soon. I think Chad Johnson is if he turns out to be like Chad Johnson, I'm ecstatic. Chad Johnson's feet are just absolutely ridiculous. But that's his thing, you know. Can he take the big hit is what people want to know, being 175. Quarterbacks in the NFL, they're going to be bigger. They're going to be stronger. Can he, you know, take on that physicality of getting jammed at the line of scrimmage? And he led the country in screens in 2020. So is it a scheme production? Was his points and his yards in 2020 all because of the screens that he kept getting? In 2018, his PFF was 75 with a 690 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2019, 82.7, 1,259 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Last year, 94.9 PFF grade, 1,856 yards, 23 touchdowns. So again, when I looked at my 1 and 2 with Ja'Marr Chase and Devontae Smith, the reason I put Devontae Smith at 1 was because of the things you can't teach. His fluidity, his aggressiveness, his elusiveness, and just how he plays. Versus Ja'Marr Chase, who is kind of stiff. The stiffness, his opt-out in 2020, I don't know how his production would have kept going in 2020 with a different quarterback not having Joe Burrow. That was the minuscule that just nudged it a little bit for Smith. Again, it was very hard for me, but for me, the eye test, it was Devontae Smith versus Ja'Marr Chase. But be sure to comment below. Who's your top 5 wide receiver going in this league? You might not even have Rashad Bateman and Kadarius Toney as your 5 and 4. You might have some other guys, and there was some other guys that were pretty good that I could have talked about. Rondell Moore, Terrace Marshall Jr., Elijah Moore. Those are very good, viable guys. I just liked Rashad Bateman and Kadarius Toney just a little bit more. But be sure to comment below, and I'm going to get to one of you guys' comments of the day. This comment comes from Simp, and I now know what a simp is, Tyler Singh. And he says, what kind of jump are you expecting from Tua stat-wise? Tua's rookie numbers, 1,814 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 87.1 passer rating. Tua next year, hopefully improvement. Then he also reiterated, like, what would you be happy with seeing that would show Tua's improvement? And I like this comment, especially because we're talking about wide receivers and getting these wide receivers is kind of going to, a lot of people think is going to help Tua get to that next level, get him the weapons that are a little bit more dangerous, I guess you could say, in the open field. What I want to see out of Tua in 2020 is, you know, like he said, what production. I want to see the improvement. I want to see more aggressiveness. So I'd like to see a bump in yards. I'd like to see, 3,500 yards, double it, double your yards. You're going to get double your play time, double your yardage, right? I want to see at least over 3,200 yards. I want to see at least double the touchdowns. Get me 22 touchdowns. Stay at 5 interceptions. Stay at 5 interceptions. But if you do double your interceptions, maybe it's because you're being more aggressive. You're trying to fit the passes in more. Good. Be more aggressive. Trust yourself more. Try to get those balls in there. So, yeah. So, let's say 3,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 90-plus passer rating. I'm happy. I think the kid is going somewhere. We can build off this kid, right? That's my minimum. That's bottom of the barrel where I think he should be above. If he doesn't, what's the problem? And then we need to sit back and say, well, what is it still Tua? Or is it the weapons? Is the offensive line? Does he not have time? What is causing this? But yeah, I feel like that's a reasonable expectation. Just double your numbers. Give me like 20 plus touchdowns. Give me like 32 plus 100 yards. And, bring your passer rating up to like 90 plus. Comment below. Do you think that's a reasonable, expectation for Tua in his second year? But that's the video. like I said, I'm going to have, Reason on when I talk about the interior offensive line. I'm going to have Jason Sarney on when I talk about the safeties. I'm going to see if I can get any other guys to come in, help me with positions that they're comfortable with. A lot of times, like I've reached out to Reason. I was like, what are you most comfortable with? And he was like, well, I could do outside. I could do tackles. I could do inside. What do you want, Doug? And I said, inside's important. I want you doing, and same thing with Jason. I said, what are you most important and comfortable with? He said safeties. So safeties it is, but I have a lot of stuff planned Monday or Tuesday, Sunday or Monday. It's my first mock draft. I even got into defensive ends, offensive linemen, all that stuff. I only did 3. So it's a base. I'll talk more about that when we do it. But other than that, guys, be sure to check out Miami Sports Music, a fantastic, fantastic site, YouTube channel. Ton of people on there. You can see all the podcasts and everything that are associated with it. Be sure to check it out. Other than that, guys, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Like I said, either Sunday or Monday. We're going to be talking about the mock draft and see who we can get. But other than that, like usual, stay classy. That fits up.